Well, hello everybody. Happy Thursday. Shaking it up on you. Let it sit for a couple days. Had a lot going on and had some great questions in the last week that I wanted to tackle, and it might take a little bit longer than normal. So, feeling good to come forward today on Thursday. Araya Onra here, live and for the love of dragons. If you're not familiar with us or haven't found a place to share your dragon stories, please join us. That's what the group is for. It's to know you're not crazy, how to work with them, sources for guidebooks and tools and decks and all kinds of things that are really the hands-on tools to work with the dragons. And it's what I do. It's why I'm a guide. I have been working with the dragons since about 2005, 2004, 2005. And brought through their book in 2007, the first one, I got all the material ready for the second one, and I just need to find that time to do it and take that time to do it. And it's getting close. So coming to you as the Dragon Lady, had some interesting pieces. One of our dragon family here was talking about wyverns this week and asking if I could discuss it and why it triggers, like she gets an emotional response to it. It brings up this fear when she sees or experiences a wyvern particularly. So I want to go into, first of all, the descriptions and terms we have in 3D for the different body shapes and types of dragons. You can dive into what they are. I know this is a really fun book, mainly meant for kids and magic, that was put out ages ago. Someone gave it to my son, so we've got Dragonology here. And it lists quite a bunch of the different types. It's just really a fun and beautiful book for those that love dragons. But in it, what I find is they discuss, there's the Asian lineage and Tibetan. Those are both serpentine-style dragons with 4 legs and no wings. They have the lindworm, which is serpentine with 2 legs and no wings. The amphitheater, which is serpentine with no legs and actual wings, 2 wings. And the wyvern, which they specify is from the African region. So these are all from different regions of the world, as if in their experience or what they wanted to share in the book, that they wanted to delineate that there were different kinds of dragons in each part of the world. My experience is that that's not so, and I'll discuss that. But wanted to go into these because these are names that might trigger, and particularly wyvern is used a lot more, especially in TV shows or movies or different ways publicly, that it's a little more prevalent in people's minds than maybe the lindworm or the lung dragon. And the amphitheater, as I said, has 2 wings but no legs on a serpentine body, sort of an unusual one. You don't see it often. And then the wyvern, of course, is the one with 2 big wings, lower leg appendages, but no forearm appendages. And they don't mention the ones in the book that have, so this would be considered more like a wyvern body. This too, I think that the artist did most of the Middle-earth dragons like wyverns for me. And if I pull this one's not even mentioned in their book, where they have 2 wings and 4 appendages, and the regular, not a serpentine body, but just a regular dragon body that we perceive. So my experience with it, in all of the dragons that I remember, that I encounter, that I meet through my session work, and all of the energy work and activation work we do around the globe, that there are so many types. It's like the different types of people. We might all have a similar body, but so many different personalities. And the dragon species coming from so many different realms where they hail from, whether it's rainbow realms, the actual dragon realms, coming from the Lyran system, their origination obviously is going to make them very unique. So I've experienced all of those kinds, some more often than others. Typically the standard format with the normal body that's got the 4 appendages and the big wings is what we typically encounter. And I think that's been historically sort of embodied within cellular memory, and it's how and why dragons have been portrayed typically in that fashion in all of our myth and lore, or the books and the stories from old times where they were being hunted by dragons, or they had these dragons that they had to defend the village from, and all those old things. Because we all know, those of us that are in this dragon community, that the dragons actually lived and walked on the planet. And so if there needs to be classifications by those body styles so that everyone can agree on, all right, we're talking about this kind, so we're going to call it a wyvern, so everybody knows that we're talking about that kind. It's never come into my field as a need because it really is a drop-down, definitely third-dimensional specification, mainly for communication purposes. When I communicate with the dragons and all these different body types, their energy, regardless of how their body presents, their energy is always the same. It's always there in service. It's always unconditionally loving. It's present to be an amazing healer, to guide and move us through pieces that are stuck, to help move that out because of the incredible energy they bring forward. So going into this with, all right, acknowledging all the different body types, and you can use the different terms, is first communication. But to me, the more important question within that of what was shared by, I believe it was Shakya, who had put the question forward with the desire to talk about wyverns, is because of the body response that comes up with particular dragon types. So is it the name wyvern that we're hearing that triggers a response, or is it the actual visual image? Because that alone is going to give you a different insight into where the deeper trigger is that needs to be released. Because anytime something triggers in the body an emotional response, it's not been dealt with. It's left in the body as trauma. It's cellular memory from some lifetime or incarnation, and that's the piece, the crumb, or the piece of the puzzle that your guides are trying to show you for you to move into release of it. So looking at that, for example, if the word wyvern is what triggers, then there's something associated with 3D living terminology here and now in whatever decade, realm, century, millennia, that there may have actually been a wyvern body style dragon, or the term used around you, that was generating fear. It could be, and for some reason I'm seeing a little girl being told stories around a campfire, like early 5th, 6th century type stories of dragons, and using the term wyvern, and actually, like, that could be brought on by something left inside their memory on a soul level of a child who has trauma from stories around the campfire that are meant to be stories to scare you into bed, to make you go to bed, or to get you to not venture out at night. You don't leave your bed, you don't leave the house, because the wyverns will come out and swoop you away. And then stories of the princess being swooped away, or the village being attacked, or all these different things. That is a very real bodily response. If it's still in the cellular memory, particularly on soul level, that then translates. If there's a trauma on the soul level, it will be embodied through every incarnation forward of that point in a timeline, until it's actually released. Doesn't matter what the trauma is. If it's on soul level, if it's not been dealt with, it will continue. Like, say that little girl she goes through her life terrified of these wyverns, crosses over, she's experiencing that. Well, she's in a timeline, a concurrent timeline to a now lifetime. If the question's been like, I'm just saying, as an example, if the person who asked the question now had that experience in the 5th, 6th century, and it was never dealt with, she died with that fear deeply embodied in her bones, it would come through in this lifetime, especially as we are in process in our ascension journey, trying to move to that 0 point doorway where we no longer have any residual trauma, karmic debt, anything left over. And so it's going to come to the surface. So bringing that, allowing what triggers me to be all right, let me go deep into those emotions. Let me sit with it and go into meditation and call my dragon guides forward to help me see it and release it. And just bringing it up into consciousness can actually release it. So what if it's the emotional response? What if it's, I see that dragon and my whole body freezes? I see it in my dream state. I see it in meditation. I see it in a movie. And it's not the term wyvern, but the visual. That's where there's a similar actual experience locked in the bodies of an encounter be it from you as a human, you as a star being, you as a dragon, you as any kind of form that you may have been, with a dragon of that specific variety that you had an encounter with that had the same emotional response. It was fear. Were they one enslaved up in the Draco system after the Orion Wars, and they were in charge of guarding the prisoners, and you were a prisoner, and so they, in order to have what they needed, were treating you horribly. Some storyline like that may be embedded deep within. So this is where the real owning up and recognizing, really pinpointing, what is it that's triggering me? Is it a verbal thing, which is going to give you indication like that's probably from this 3D realm, this planet, a lifetime here experientially? And if it's the body shape, it might very well be further back than that. It might be in another system. But either of those, and it could be to any dragon type if you have that kind of response. For me, my response to different dragons is differing levels of excitement of seeing them again, or whoa, I haven't seen that body shape in a long time, and it brings back like times where I've been incarnate around that kind of dragon. So for me, it's typically an excitement when I get to experience a new connection through a dragon body type that I haven't yet remembered for some reason in this body in this time now, as I'm weaving and bringing all this information back in to the here and now on the surface, so that we can complete this cycle for all of the dragons and move forward planetarily. So that would be my share, Shakya. If you have still other questions, or if this begs questions from others of you, the discussion here is meant to benefit everybody and elicit question and elicit contemplation in you, so that you then keep seeking and come up with other questions that you can generate back to me, and we can keep going with discussions. So in that same note, dragon eye. Someone asked, why do I see a dragon eye before I go to sleep? And whether it's just as you're going to sleep and this eye is presenting, or you go into meditation and all of a sudden this eye presents. I will tell you, my early story with my own dragon in the beginning of my merge with her was to be taken in meditation, and I was so caught off guard. Down to the bottom of the ocean, South Pacific, off the coast of Peru, and I would feel myself sitting and being brought next to this massive serpentine water dragon who was asleep, and she's just laying on the bottom of the ocean, and I was next to her eye, but it was closed, and her eye, as I sat with it slowly, every time I would go in, I would feel like a wave of energy or a gentle pulse beginning to wake up, something connecting there, and slowly, gently rising up to the surface, until eventually there was movement with the eyeball behind the lid, and eventually the lid opened, and so much started getting shared there. So the eye can mean a lot of different things, and someone in their comment back to the post about the eye as they go to sleep, I love that someone recognized and said, the card is in the deck. You can actually look up, and let me see, I should have, there it is, it's right on the bottom. Isn't that funny? I went right to it. So the Eye of the Dragon card is in the deck, and the three key words on it are healing, testing, and challenge. But the core framework of the energy is vulnerability. So when the Eye of the Dragon shows up to you, whether you draw it from the deck or you're seeing it in a meditation, or as you go to sleep, however it shows up, those pieces, it is about moving you to a next level, whether in your connection with self, or your connection with the dragons, or your own spiritual expansion, that you're ready to move into something. So you're being challenged, you're being tested. They're looking closely. They're giving you the awareness of, I am with you, I'm watching you. And they are doing, every time there's an eye, they're actually scanning. Are you ready? Are you vulnerable enough? Are you transparent and open enough for them to actually come in and do deeper work with you? So different times when I have experienced the eye, other than in my own bringing to myself, when I would do activations with my dragon hearts on site, like in Sedona or in Tibet or different places, when we would finish the activation and the ceremony, Tiamat's eye would always reveal. She would come up if we had opened a portal, and she would look up with this massive red eye. So I always knew it was her, looking up through the portal as if to acknowledge that it was complete, it was done, and she was making herself aware of who exactly was present and recording that on some level. She was very aware who was present, who was doing the work in service, and acknowledging that it was done. It was like, someone's taking care of my beautiful Gaia. She's, Tiamat is the guardian, the protector of Gaia, and is wrapped around her like a big protective dragon mother. And so she'd be like checking out, like, all right, who's here taking care of and serving my little one, my guardianship, right? So other times or situations where you might feel the eye is, and this work is actually in the book, to work in the eye of the dragon. When you start working with the dragons and you encounter them in your space, and hello, I've seen some more join on. Good to see you guys. When you're working in that space with them directly, whether you have one dragon show up, you have several show up, you're working on merging two different dragon energies, as described in the book, there can be a point at which, especially if you're working with one dragon in particular, they will actually offer you their eye. They will come forward and look at you directly and bend down and actually present their eye. And you need to realize that you can actually allow yourself to be vulnerable enough, to trust them enough, to be brought and slid directly, energetically, right into their eye, that it opens up an internal chamber for a lot deeper work with them. And I describe in the book, so dragonwithin.com, if you don't have the book yet, that's where you can get the digital or the print copies. And in the book, there are ways described, the different ways to work with the 13 base level dragons here that are part of our system, and several other systems, Orion and Sirius. But the Eye of the Dragon work with the elementals is the first introduction that I put up publicly to go into that deeper level of work and what they can do with you in there. And so it's a great way, if you're timid or not sure about it, to read about it, experience it through that format of the book, and get that experiential. Because then what I've discovered since then is any dragon, be it silver dragon, titanium dragon, emerald dragon, a dragon from the rainbow realms, any dragon has the potential to actually invite you into that inner chamber and work with you in that way. So if they present the eye, I encourage you, allow yourself to trust enough, to be vulnerable enough to slide right in. It's like a magnetic pull, and you get brought right through the pupil, and this inner chamber opens up, and then your experience will really shift, because they can take you into their vibrational status, which may be a much higher octave than you're able to reach on your own. And I encourage you, trust it and go with it and see what unfolds, because there's always deeper layers that they want to take you to. And oftentimes that eye showing up is the invitation. Even if it's not to slide into their eye in a meditation, they are putting you on notice of an invitation to work with them more directly, or to go into your next level. So if I started seeing a dragon eye before I went to bed, I would be paying attention to a new set of guides showing up. What do they want to do with me? What am I ready to open to next? So that's my take on the eye of the dragon, and knowing, for me, I've always said that the eyes, in fact, I used to be an underwater photographer and had beautiful shots when I lived in Kauai and was working in the dive industry. Beautiful shots of turtles, the Pacific green sea turtles there. And I had a close-up with a zoom lens of an eye. And it was one of the greeting cards that I made, and it was titled Window to the Soul. Because for me, that presentation, even one-to-one as human, is really how we communicate soul to soul. When you look deeply into the eyes, they are the window to the soul. And you are being invited to communicate on soul level with that dragon. And so just really, really honoring that. Recognizing within yourself and honoring yourself for being ready for that level of a step. And honoring the dragon that they see something within you that is ready for that. And that they are willing to work with you on that level. So, whew, love this topic. Thank you, Shakya. And I apologize, I need to look up, it was Isabel. Thank you, Isabel, for the comment that you posted in the group about the Eye of the Dragon experience. And hopefully this gave you just even a little more insight about it. I will look for you guys next week. Send your questions in. I love communicating and connecting with you guys. And we will see you hopefully in warmer spring weather for us sometime next week. Bye for now.